Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by the Family Forest Carbon Program, where we help family forest owners get paid to improve the health of their woods. Well, the National Milk Producers Federation applauded the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry for supporting by voice vote the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act, a vital piece of legislation for increasing student milk consumption and nutrition access. The bill markup yesterday was a critical step in passing this bipartisan legislation, which has already been approved at the House committee level. The Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act is about making informed, science-based decisions that prioritize the health and future of our children, said National Milk Producers Federation President and CEO Greg Dodd. We're grateful that the common sense legislation has received such strong support from both sides of the aisle. We commend Senators Marshall and Welch for authoring this bill in the Senate and advocating passionately for its passage, as well as Chairman Bozeman and Ranking Member Klobuchar for their bipartisan leadership in moving the bill through committee. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Another mostly dry day over Ohio today. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag Weather Update. There is a strong frontal boundary building to our west, but it's going to take its own sweet time trying to cross northern Indiana today. And now I think that most moisture stays at bay, even in northwest Ohio, until closer to sunset tonight. Overnight tonight through tomorrow and through the first part of Friday, I think we're looking at scattered showers and thunderstorms that can bring us anywhere from 1/2 to 2 inches. Moisture does not end in far eastern or southern Ohio until overnight Friday night into Saturday. I do think we're done in western and northwestern parts of the state, probably as we move into Friday morning to midday. But the moisture is going to be welcome in a lot of areas. You get down close to the Ohio River, not necessarily as much, but we follow it up with dry weather for the entirety of the weekend. Saturday and Sunday both, I think, are mostly dry. A few scattered showers coming through overnight, Sunday night into Monday morning, and then we are dry from Tuesday right on through next Saturday once again. So there's going to be plenty of drying here. That means the moisture that comes through, as long as we can be in the lower half of the range, should be beneficial for a large part of Ohio. It's those 1.5 to 2 inch rainfall totals, those localized areas that see the heavier action here nearby. Those are the ones that are probably going to say, we could have done with a little bit less. That's a look at your forecast update. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Farmers would have a harder time getting conservation technical assistance under the USDA's 2026 budget proposal, which would slash free, voluntary expert guidance by USDA's Natural Resource Conservation Service staff. The conservation technical assistance is considered the backbone of USDA's conservation programs, but USDA's budget proposal would dramatically cut technical assistance and NRCS staffing. Conservationists say without technical assistance, farmers would be hard-pressed to enroll in other NRCS programs. The cut to conservation technical assistance is just one of nearly $7 billion in budget cuts USDA has proposed. But cutting technical assistance would create a ripple effect across USDA's broader conservation programs. Under the budget, NRCS staffing would fall from 11,715 to right at 8,000 employees, nearly 1/3 reduction in staff. And according to the most recent U.S. weekly export sales report, another 43 million pounds of soybean oil sales were made during the week ended May 22nd. That takes total commitments, exports plus outstanding sales, to 2.287 billion pounds for 2024-25 in just under 8 months of the marketing year. The USDA was forced to increase its annual estimate again in May to 2.4 billion pounds, with that already looking too low. It's worth remembering the USDA's annual export estimate was 600 million pounds up until revisions began in December. It's also worth noting that last year, at the same time, total soybean export commitments stood at just 311.5 million pounds, and that isn't a misprint. On the domestic front, the USDA just released its April oilseed crush report with exceptional demand for soybean oil seen there as well. For the month of April, a record 202 million bushels of soybeans were crushed, up from 178 million last year. That produced 2.403 billion pounds of crude soybean oil, also a record for the month, and 14.6% ahead of last year's 2.096 billion pounds. Yet, end of April soybean oil stocks were 336 million pounds, or 14.6% below a year ago's levels. Let's check in now with our latest Cab Cam update. Joel was in the cab last evening.
We're back up and running with our Cab Cam series after quite the break in May, and unfortunately, that's the theme of how planting season's been going for the most part in Ohio. A nice early start back at the end of April, beginning of May, and then turned off because of the rain. But this nice, warm, dry spell we've had here in beginning of June, I've never seen so many planters running all at once in Ohio's fields. And one of those planters being driven by John Linder of Morrow County. We asked him how this spring's been going. He says, what a challenge.
We did get some crops in April. They're looking good. The May stuff has been a bit of a challenge. Hooking the hoe up. Now we've got the first round of means planted. Gonna hook the hoe up again and replant speed. So it's just never ending at this point. Who knows what we'll get for rain Thursday? It's gonna be a saving grace. Yeah, late for corn, finding the last field. Hoping for the best. I want some heat units this summer. We don't want a cold summer. I remember that. And I'm going to guess in 1994 where we had low test weight, real high moisture, just low quality. It was kind of a challenge to store and market both. Don't want that again, but hey, it's been a while. We're in the barrel. I guess we're in the barrel.
John says some of the stuff they got in does seem to have come up nicely for the most part on the corn side.
We were projected to get into the low 30s, and we have experienced that with little moisture, a little rain, little snow, cold water on the imbibe of the corn. And yeah, that doesn't end well either. So we thought we'd be patient. Forecast looked like we could. Turned out we couldn't, and we didn't have to worry about it. Didn't get that cold. So that early stuff, for the most part, what I see survived around here. Can't say that's the case everywhere. I know guys that have replanted corn already, and not just Ohio. So we're just in it with a lot of other folks.
That's John Linder of Morrow County. He's the subject of the latest Cab Cam online today at ohioagnet.com. Oh, by the way, John being inducted this summer into the Ohio Ag Council Hall of Fame, a major honor in the world of Ohio agriculture. The Cab Cam series brought to you by Precision Agri Services. I'm Joel Norwood reporting.
And thanks, Joel. Back with more after this.
Soybeans are making waves in aquaculture. As a top protein source for fish farming, soy meal is essential for producing sustainable farm-raised fish. With fish farming as the fastest growing food sector, soybeans meet the demand for eco-friendly, nutritious options. From soybean fields to fish farms, soybeans power the farms that feed families. Brought to you by the Ohio soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Whether you're in the fields or on the farm, creating a safer work environment has never been easier. BWC's safety consulting services are included with your policy premiums and offer training and education for everyone in your farming operation. It's always the right time to make safety a priority. Visit bwc.ohio.gov or call 1-800-644-6292. The Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation, here to help you work safely.
Oil futures rose Tuesday morning as wildfires in Alberta continued to rage, shutting in some 344,000 barrels per day in heavy, sour crude oil production. The first operations were halted late last week, and several operators had to postpone the restart of production due to fire hazards. Also, the fruitless Russia-Ukraine truce talks further led to support to oil prices. The New York MEX WTI for July delivery was up 60 cents a barrel, and the ICE Brent for August delivery was up 54 cents a barrel. The U.S. dollar index strengthened by 0.485, bringing it to 99.12. Now, rumors of a large output hike by OPEC led to a sizable increase in bearish bets on oil futures before prices jumped on OPEC's decision to stick to the largely expected 411,000 barrels per day increase. Extensive military operations in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war over the weekend, meanwhile, added to geopolitical supply risks, which were exasperated by Monday's negotiations in Istanbul, ending after only 1 hour, with the parties' demands remaining unchanged. Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company, excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. For marketing information for your soybeans, call 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finishing the Tuesday session mixed, but it was the exact opposite of Monday. Yesterday, we saw the corn and bean markets bounce just a little bit, and the wheat markets contracted somewhat. What were the headlines in the marketplace yesterday? Well, weather was issue number one. The season's first central U.S. high-pressure ridge is now showing up starting next week, and that sparked a little short covering as folks were debating what the summer weather pattern is going to be. It's not seasonally uncommon that a ridge arrives at the start of summer, but the high-pressure ridge is not strong enough to limit Midwest rainfall. So we're going to be seeing a decent action coming across the entirety of the Corn Belt over the next week to week and a half. So it was a weather story that wasn't really a weather story. Brokers estimate that Managed Money bought about 1,200 contracts of corn yesterday, 3,800 contracts of soybeans, sold a net 1,200 contracts in Chicago wheat. As we take a look at other stories, Ukraine did take not the blame, take responsibility or claim responsibility for an attack on the Crimean bridge that connects Crimea and Russia. The bridge was a landmark project of Russian President Putin. It's 12 miles long. Explosives were placed on structural supports in the mission that was carried out over several months. That, again, going back to the drone attack that happened over the weekend, it signals that there's not much of any kind of idea that things are going to be slowing in that geopolitical turmoil at all. However, I think there was a little bit of consolidation in the wheat markets, even though there were new headlines out of that area. Wheat yields between the May and June reports are often tied to plains and Midwest temperatures. Wheat is grass. I'll say it's even a weed. Cool temperatures favor heavier wheat head weights, which translate into additional bushels. The harvest will be pushing into Kansas and southern Illinois and Indiana during the last part of June. Harvest could be delayed a little bit in Kansas just due to the big rains that they've seen there. So Oklahoma harvest is underway. Kansas is probably a few weeks out yet. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Overnight at the open, July corn unchanged at 438.5. December up 1/4 cent, 438 3/4, and March up 1/4 cent at 454.5. The July beans are down 1 1/4 at 1039.5. November down 1 1/2 at $10.20, and January is down 1 1/2 at $10.34.25. Now, the July wheat's down 1 1/4, bringing it to 534 3/4. September down 1 3/4 at 548 3/4, and December is $5.71 1/4, down 1 1/2. In livestock, June cattle, $215.97, down 57. August down $1.25 at $209.75, and October down $1.27 at $207.92. Hogs were slightly mixed, with June down 62 at $100.22. July down 40 at $104.57. Then the plus, August up 55 cents at $106.45. September feeder cattle, $300.42, down 47. October, $298.65, down 42. And November, down 32 at $296.57. Tomorrow at midday, we'll get the latest update from Scott Higgins as we celebrate June Dairy Month. Scott's been working on behalf of dairy producers for more than 41 years. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, everyone. I'm Dale Menyo. This is the Ohio AgNet.